I have to be critical, but hear me out on this. Because I'm not any different than, I don't enjoy being a dick. I don't enjoy it. I would rather put praise on somebody, but please understand from my perspective, which is a perspective of a job that comes with some critical thinking. And I can do it on a victory or I can do it on a defeat. If Valentina Shevchenko had lost, and I came out and I was critical of her, that would be like kicking somebody when they're down, and that's not appropriate. That is a dick move. But what about now? I'm going to be critical of a world champion who's got millions of dollars, plenty of fame, and all the success they want, right? So if my only options are to tell you the truth, which is to be critical about her, should I do that now on a victory, or should I wait until she has a defeat? Listen, you don't even want to know the records that Valentina has. You don't even want to know them. I have seen a one sheet. It's a page from the top analytics people in the history of our sport. I have seen it all the way down to AI generated. And nobody in the media has ever read one of her stats because they're brutal. I mean, it is unbelievable the stats that she has. It is unbelievable the auditoriums that she has played, the tens of thousands of people that she has fought in front of live, more than some of your biggest heroes. And does it in a co-main event spot. You would be stunned to see the posters and the buildings, the highlights that she's been put in. And how many of them weren't sold out? You would be blown away the success that she has had. You would be blown away. And how lightly the needle moved on the pay-per-view. Now, forget about before we ever get into merchandising and other. We don't ever talk about merchandising for other people, so I won't discuss for you that she's the worst-selling merchandise champion in the history of the sport. The reason I come at you from this perspective is it doesn't have to be this way. And if you have somebody that is so good, and that's really what she is, I put her in front of everybody but Amanda. I mean, when I look at Valentina, skill for skill, I mean, she's light years in front of Ronda. It pains me to tell you, she's in front of Joanna. She's in front of Rose. She's that good. I don't believe that Juliana or Kayla has proved enough yet to surpass Valentina. And to argue she's in front of Cyborg is a belief that I have, but you see where that would be close. And my point of telling you that is, I have praise. I acknowledge what I'm seeing. I mean, for her to stay hungry, for her to want to come out there and win, that was the biggest surprise when she beat Grosso at Spear. She was an underdog. But when I was in the building and talking to the 5 people that cared about that fight, they all have the same opinion, which is just simply Valentina's drive has come to an end. That extra effort, that extra oomph that you would need doesn't exist because she's already been there and she's been on top for so long. The hunger is gone. And we believe that. I believe that. It's something that I was so impressed with the Grosso fight, but even if you come in to Fior last night, you would wonder, where is the hunger of Valentina? What is the point of grasping and clinging and hanging on championships? And I mean, there's a number of reasons that people can't sell. There is a number of reasons. One of them that is wildly unfair. All those records I talk about that she does not have, Jon Jones doesn't have one of them either. Jon Jones does not have a gate, an attendance, a merchandise, a pay-per-view. He has no records. But it's largely for the same reason that Roy Jones, who is the best boxer of an entire decade, didn't have records. He was just so good. And in that part is where it's not totally fair. And Valentina does have a degree of that, where the opponents have not made it interesting, have not convinced us. There's a degree, but it's a bit of a broad stroke, because it's not an absolute, even with Fiora. She made it interesting. Just for example, Grosso had already beat her once. Even though she did nothing to make it interesting the first time, the fact that she had already beat her once lets you know that she's got the ability to do it again. But it's still co-main event. And my largest gripe with Valentina, just from a, hey, this is your career. Take it from somebody who's done. The only thing that's real is the money and the miles. That's it. Traveling around from town to town, eating a cold supper in a room by yourself, being away from your family, trying to hold that together, trying to put something away so you can get back and make this whole thing make sense. And when it's done, how much do you have from a financial standpoint if you were in fact a prize fighter? I don't need to hear about the fight, and I want to know about the prize. The only thing that's real in this business is the miles and the money. And from that perspective, I would come to Valentina and say, young lady, you have everything. She's beautiful. They say you should never mention somebody's looks, particularly when it comes to her. She's beautiful. She speaks 7 languages. She's a hand-to-hand combat expert. It turns out, and that's called unarmed combat, it turned out under armed combat, she has even trained military forces. She's as slick with a gun, apparently. And all of these stories had started, and it even started that she was a spy for a foreign government. And that every time we bring her to the U.S., you had better be careful, because she's actually a spy. Like, this was so impressive, it started to become this internet folklore, and that is exactly what legends are made of. And things were going her way. I remember the time when this thing was building. I remember even standing back and going, oh my gosh, she does a little dance at the end, and she's got her sisters in this, and they pay tribute to her mom. She's got a whole nation behind her. She speaks 7 languages, allegedly. She's good with the gun, I guess. But I remember hearing these things, and it was awesome. And it never went anywhere. And my only problem with that is the act. Everybody that you see on TV is acting to a degree. Are they acting like a nicer person than they really are? Most of them, yes. Are they acting like they're funny? Are they acting like they're tough? Are they acting like they're brave? Are they acting like... And you can start filling the blank, but everybody you see on TV, all the way down to the nightly news where that guy sits there and you think that he's doing everything perfect. It's an act. Everybody is performing to a degree. Now, you do that as long as the act is better than the reality. As long as the character that you play is better or more entertaining, it makes perfect sense to do. And that's my problem with Valentina. I believe she is a heel. I don't believe Valentina's a nice girl. I've heard a number of things that Valentina has said, and they're not things that a nice girl says. I just don't know that somebody that can kill you with their hands or with a 9mm, somebody that speaks 7 different languages, that's an unarmed combat champion of the world, that was a kickboxing star, that's a generational athlete from mother to sister. I don't believe somebody like that has to come out and pretend to be nice. She's not in the nice girl business. And if you can make money being nice, go ahead and do it. I'll stay out of your way. There's plenty of phonies out there. Plenty of them. But when you have a genuine heel, there is nothing in business that draws more than a cool heel. You don't get them very often. That would be The Rock, for example. That would be Stone Cold Steve Austin, for example. That would be Rip from Yellowstone, for example. A cool heel. And I watch Valentina, and it's every manager's dream. Every manager out there, oh my God, you'd read a resume and you take your 20% and you knock it down to 15. And if you heard another manager, you'd knock it down to 10. You'd knock it down to 3.5% if you had to, just to get into that business, because that's going to be an absolute box office star. But then you see her on TV and she pretends to be nice. And it's not working with me. I don't believe she's nice. I just suggest for you she doesn't need to hide the fact, and she doesn't need to apologize for it, and frankly, we're running out of time. She has every record for booby prize the sport has ever had. Truly. Truly. If you saw someone that fought for this many titles and has only made this much money, your jaw would drop. And it's certainly not a skill issue. She has those. Not a fear issue. She'd take on damn near anybody. It's being real with the audience. And the audience doesn't buy that a 7-language, gun-shooting, fist-fighting, covered in tattoos girl is really that sweet little angel. And they shouldn't, because she's not.